Welcome, everybody. We wanted to thank you for sharing part of your day with us to join us for the Insider series. This week's topic is a real hot one right now, and it's one that executives have really been speaking about for a long time over this past year of unexpected things that are happening to businesses. And it's really all about automate, educate, or offshore, and how to do that and when to do that. So before we get started, I just wanted to go over a couple of things from a housekeeping perspective. This call will be recorded and we will share this for future use in our YouTube channel. Also, if you have questions, please use the chat feature at any time. We will be monitoring that and we'd love to answer your questions in real time. So please, the more interactive this session is, the better it is for everybody and the more we all learn from one another. Getting things started, I just wanted to make some introductions. I'm your host. My name is Alan Peck and I'm a managing partner with Valenta BPO in the US. And I'm happy to be working with a real expert panel on the topic that we're talking about today. So joining us is the Valenta co-founder and CEO, Jayton Qasim. And Chetan he's been an entrepreneur and a business owner for his entire career. He has, a great passion for automation and is leading that aspect of Valenta and really runs all of our service delivery centers and has been actively engaged in BPO functions and everything that is behind our operations at Valenta BPO. So you're going to learn a lot from a true expert in automation, and it's not a really old field. It's emerging in a modern field, but Chetan has been involved in it since the inception. So thank you, Chetan, for joining us. And also joining is Rajita Rapani, and Rajitha is a managing partner, and she is the chief growth officer at Valenta Growth Labs. And Rajitha has had many years of experience. I'm not going to say how many, Rajitha, but many years of experience working with Fortune 500 companies in digital transformation. So again, Rajitha has been involved in this terminology of digital transformation really since before the inception of digital transformation, before it was cool. But it's really finding solutions for businesses to migrate into their next generation of strategy, staying ahead of their competition, and also preparing for hiccups and bumps in the road that can occur before they actually happen. So thanks for joining Rajitha and Chetan. Just wanted to kick things off just by saying this has been a crazy year, and it's thrown a lot of curveballs. I know that's not a cricket term, Chetan, but it's a baseball term, and we've had to pivot on a lot of different things. And business leaders have really changed their plans. Plans for offshoring have accelerated. Plans for digital transformation have really accelerated. And the reality is they've really exposed corporate challenges where Band-Aids and tonics have been applied to kind of build out their structures. They were vastly exposed by the inability to really have that customer experience become or maintain its existence in the way it used to be during COVID and during virtual meetings and a different way of doing business. So just opening it up to conversation, Chetan, you truly work with people on a global basis in all aspects of the world. What are some of the conversations that you're having with business leaders and CEOs in terms of their plans and how they've had to pivot this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a great question, Alan. And, it's interesting. And today is actually a special day because we actually have just done 7. April 1st is when 2014 is when Valenta was actually incorporated. So when we think about the kind of conversations that we used to have about 6 or 7 years back, again, with business leaders, right, with CEOs and CFOs and CTOs, it was a very different conversation back then, right? It was all about, okay, fair enough, I've got about 20 resources or 30 resources over here in this particular location. What kind of cost savings could I basically look at getting if I sort of offshore to a location in probably Southeast Asia or wherever for that matter. But when you talk to business leaders today, right, or rather ever since 2020, it's not just about cost savings, right? It's a completely different conversation that you're having with them right now. It's more to do with improving, efficiencies across the organization, and it's all about sort of digitizing, right? I mean, in any sector. Now, this could be financial services, and in the financial services sector, these guys were obviously early adopters of digital transformation, moving to the cloud and so on, compared to logistics and manufacturing, where you still probably have a lot of legacy applications in play. So I guess it's been interesting, so with most of the conversations, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just restricted to cost savings, but it's a mix of everything, really, right? Okay, how do I get more effective on the operation side, right? I mean, what kind of applications could I use to sort of transform my finance? On the sales and marketing front, it's no longer just Google AdWords, right? I mean, there's so much more that can be done on channels such as LinkedIn, I mean, Facebook, Instagram. So it's all about being creative today, and it's all about using that creativity and sort of, bringing in automation, bringing in sort of, outsourcing and all these other areas that can actually transform your business, right? I mean, so it's several different factors, but I think, Rajita, you've also been operating this space for quite some time now, so probably be interesting to hear some of your thoughts in terms of the digital transformation, I mean, just the journey itself that you probably had to, deal with over the past few years.
Absolutely. And, it's the topic of the year right now. I think if anything last year has taught any of us is how we can evolve, how we can pivot, still thrive. So a lot of companies, I was just having a conversation with one of the senior leaders at Microsoft, and, the work-life balance and the work normalcy has changed for good. Every company, every business, small, medium, large, is basically accelerating. Digital transformation is really not an option anymore. It used to be an innovation project in the past. It used to be something that the CIOs and CTOs had to fight for, but no more. It's in the boardroom right now, in the front seat, and there's no choice for anyone. So from what I have seen last year with businesses too, small, medium, really they had to jump and quickly pivot and quickly adapt to that transformation. Where systems were offline, they had to get them online because the way we are engaging with customers completely changed. And more home deliveries, more online shopping, everything had to change, and we have no choice. And this isn't gonna stay, this is not gonna leave, this is gonna stay forever, if not even more. So the possibilities are endless, and the adoption has become very, very accelerated from what I have seen. Definitely, a path forward, and that's the new normalcy.
Excellent.
So,
thanks,
Alan,
Rajitha.
yes.
Yeah, thanks, Rajitha and Chetan. It's a great kickoff to the conversation. And the great question is, now that we know what we have to do, it's a matter of how we do it. So I know, Chetan, you've got great passion to describe that, and you've got some slides to share and some information that people should be thinking of to be successful in that transformation. And Rajitha, I know a huge aspect of this is, okay, now that we've done it, how do we transform our ability for people to be able to execute on the strategy and the plan when they haven't done it before? So so let's dive into those things and kind of educate our audience on best practices for being successful in this transition that everybody is rapidly accelerating.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, so Rajitha, if you could just go over to the next slide, please. Yeah, probably just slide number 5, and I'll get started over there.
Awesome.
Sorry, I guess that's the next slide, slide number 6. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, and thanks so much for that, Alan. And it's great to sort of connect with everyone over here. And so I think the basis of truly starting any automation journey is selecting the right partner. So this is a very, very important aspect, because I personally believe that if you find the right partner, someone that basically understands your vision, they understand your mission, they understand what it is that you're sort of trying to build over here, they will actually be able to build you something valuable. And again, it's not about finding a vendor or a service provider, but if you can actually find that right partner to build a solution with you, I think that itself is going to be a transformation of sorts, right? And I think this is where it's very, very important that you actually select the right partner, because, if you just go through this statement over here, most companies that are technically going to connect with you would sort of let you know that, hey, listen, this is something that we've actually built. But it's only when you start sort of getting into the details of it, do they then start going ahead and looking out for another partner to build it with. So they don't necessarily have a solution of sorts. And this is where I think, connecting with the right partners is very, very critical from the very go. And as you will see in some of the other slides as we progress through this presentation, it's important to note that for every dollar that's actually spent on automation or on RPA software, $3.50 actually meant sort of spent on services to make it work, right? Now, the technology literally just comprises of 23% of the total cost, whereas services to make it work would add up to about 77%. Now, if you just look at some of the additional costs over here, such as strategy development and process assessment, solution build, now all this is sort of way more expensive than the cost of the technology itself, right? So I guess this is where having a sound implementation plan is very, very critical, right? Now, Rajitha, if you could just move on to the next slide, please. So as you will see over here, most companies technically believe that by deploying AI, that's sort of going to give them a competitive advantage, whereas the failure rate of RPA projects or deployment are as high as 50%. Now, that's not necessarily the fault of the technology itself. I think the technology does a great job. The bots are trained to do whatever the workflow has been built at the back end, right? So it's not necessarily the fault of the technology, but I think by not having a sound process, by not having a sound implementation plan, that's when projects really fail. Now, out of the 62% that have technically deployed an AI strategy, it's only 13% that have gone beyond a point solution, right? So I guess, when you're technically talking digital transformation today, a lot of times you're going to get asked, okay, what is digital transformation? And, what are the different components of digital transformation? And I guess there is no real definite answer over here, because everything right from the servers moving on from on-premise to the cloud, right? So server virtualization, when you talk about, implementing RPA solutions and bringing in AI and conversational AI, it's a mix of multiple different technologies coming together that really, enable digital transformation, so to speak. But I guess, in the next slides, we'll just discuss this in further detail. So, as you can see over here, RPA itself, which is robotic process automation, so when it started probably back, the technology has actually been around for a while, probably since 2000, 2008, 2009. But I would think that it's only around 2014 or 2015 that it actually started gaining traction, right? However, even 2014, 2015, we were only talking RPA 1.0, which was more of attended automation. So you basically needed a human intervention over here. You needed a human to basically start the bot, stop the bot, so that was all about assisted RPA, right? But then a couple of years later, we moved on to a stage of unattended automation. And this was an interesting part because you could now sort of schedule bots and you didn't have to necessarily be present in front of the system, right? So the bots would start and stop on their own, perform business functions, send you exception reports, do all of that. And this was nice and easy. But then, I think towards 2000 and probably 18 and 19, right, is when we technically got to a stage of cognitive RPA, or rather RPA 4.0, and that's where we currently are at, right? So over here, it's not just RPA acting by itself. It's not just the bots that are sort of standalone. You now are able to plug in AI solutions, right? So this could be OCR, this could be computer vision, document understanding, and a lot more. And those basically form the basis of any kind of automation, right? You need an extraction capability to be able to get on to the next step. So I would think, at this point in time, where things stand, RPA 4.0 is obviously doing an amazing job, but obviously it's not going to be too far before we get on to, RPA 5.0, which is more about bots being able to create themselves. Now that's going to be interesting, but believe me, I mean, it's not just sci-fi anymore, right? I mean, this is stuff that is actually happening, and probably in the next 2 or 3 years from now, we will sort of get to RPA 5.0, where we have bots that are technically smart enough to be able to take decisions by themselves and sort of, create, more processes and more efficiencies across the organization. And yeah, Rajitha, it'd be great if you could just move on to the next slide, please. Right. And again, as I mentioned, RPA was obviously where automation or software automation sort of started, right, a few years back. But again, for RPA itself, to technically transform, it's now got into a stage of intelligent process automation. So what you had in RPA 1.0, RPA 2.0, it was just robotic process automation. So you put in a certain program, you give it a certain input, and you will get a derived output, right? However, right now, with conversational AI and general AI capabilities such as document understanding and so on, it's all sort of moving on to intelligent process automation right now. And one of these solutions, which is conversational AI, and this is literally going to be the next big thing, probably over the next 5 or 10 years. I think it's literally going to explode. I mean, there was an interesting fact as well, that by 2040, by 2040, there's going to be about 500 million apps that are technically going to be built, right? Now, that's literally the number of apps that are being built over the last 40 years together. So that is just unimaginable, right? I mean, we probably never even going to use, a fraction of those apps, right? It's practically impossible. But I guess, just getting back to the conversational AI platform itself, go back 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years from now, and think about sort of, engaging or sort of getting onto a website, and you obviously had the chat bot on the right-hand corner, so you click on that, and it was obviously very, very FAQ based, right? It was very reactive in nature. It's not like it wasn't effective. You could still schedule appointments. You could still probably, do a lot of other stuff, make a payment or whatever, but it was still very, very reactive in nature. But what's happened ever since then is you've now moved on. We've gotten to a stage wherein through conversational AI, we've actually, we able to now converse using different sort of channels, right? This could be WhatsApp, this could be SMS, this could be email communication, this could be Slack, Microsoft Teams, Zoom. I mean, there is really no limit anymore. And you can sort of converse with these bots in both a guided as well as an unguided structure, right? So that is the beauty of conversational AI. It can, again, be deployed across any business any business function, So let's just talk HR, for example. Now, when you're trying to source candidates, or when you're trying to sort of onboard new employees or offboard employees, or, just around the whole training and development, the payroll side of things, at this point in time, employees within an organization are just so used to reaching out to the HR department, even for the slightest of queries, right? I mean, what is my leave balance? I mean, all right, how do I go about accessing this particular policy? But you know what? Moving forward, you don't necessarily need to have massive HR departments, human resources within the HR department. You could actually have conversational bots that can completely transform the employee experience, provide real-time information, and provide information 24/7. You could be at a vacation and still get certain reminders, certain notifications. You want to extend that leave of yours, you could literally do it through WhatsApp, sitting at a beach somewhere. So it's completely transformed the way businesses are going to sort of operate going forward, and I guess again, Rajitha, if you could just move on to the next slide, please. And this is a very, very interesting slide, my favorite slide, without a doubt. It's all about bodification, right? How do you bodify your organization? What are the different kind of business functions, the different use cases? And as you'd see over here, I mean, this technology, I mean, now whether you're talking RPA, whether you're talking AI, it sort of covers every single area in an organization, right? So whether it's legal or whether it's contact center, it's operations, marketing, HR, IT. I mean, there's just so many different use cases that you can potentially look at, right? And I think this is where it's important that businesses sort of understand what automation can do for them. It's no longer just about reducing costs, but just to be clear over here, any form of automation can at least reduce 40 to 50% of your current operating costs, right? And bots work 24/7. A bot is never really going to sort of apply for a sick leave. A bot's never going to take an annual leave. You're never going to have to train a bot, just because you have a resource that's technically moving on. So there's just so many different factors. I mean, so many advantages of deploying automation, of deploying bots within the organization. And as I mentioned earlier on as well, these are smart bots, these are intelligent bots, right? And over the next few years, they're only going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. So yeah, I think I just want to sort of touch upon some of these areas. Rajitha, we could probably skip a couple of these slides over here. And again, just the last part over here, which was going back to the failure rate. Now, it is fairly high, right? I mean, without a doubt, it's sort of at about 50% right now. But it's also important to understand that globally, at this point in time, there's only about 12,000 organizations that have actually implemented automation, right? So probably, and that's one of the main reasons that the failure rate is also this high. I'm sure as we progress over the next 4 or 5 years, it's not going to be sort of the failure rate is obviously going to come down, right? But it's all about having a real good team in place, someone that basically understands the business. I mean, a typical RPA team would consist, or an automation team would consist of business analysts, process consultants, solution architects, RPA developers. I mean, a strong IT team, right? So I guess all of that put together, and as of today, I mean, business analysts, solution architects, these are rare commodities, right? So an organization that's actually able to tap into the right resource is going to absolutely deliver a fantastic automation solution. But for the ones that can't, and they then sort of, do not engage with the right partners and so on. Now that's when automation projects do not necessarily take off. But again, this is just some of the stuff that I wanted to cover in, as part of my slides over here today. It's obviously such an interesting topic. You can go on and on and on for hours, really. But I guess, while automation is obviously a very, very important part, for any business to sort of, transform, it's very, very important that you also understand how all of this can be done. And I guess this is where, Rajitha would now sort of, walk us through the education piece, because once you've got that sound implementation plan, what it is that you really want to automate, it then becomes easier for the development team, for the automation team to sort of support operations. So with that, Rajitha, I guess it's over to you now, and yeah, looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this.
Well, while Rajitha's pulling that up, I'll just inject myself for one moment. We do have a question for you, Chetan, on the chat that's coming from Gautam. So we're asking, how does Valenta compete currently with other players offering the same services in North American and Australian marketplaces? And what's our biggest competitive edge, and what wins us deals? Is it pricing, service, or value? There's a lot to unpack there, but how would you summarize that?
Yeah, look, Gautam, I guess, it's a bit of everything, really. Now what we do is we're not resellers of RPA technology, so to speak, or we're not resellers of any particular AI platform, right? So as a business, Valenta is basically product agnostic. Now, we look at ourselves as technology curators. So the difference, or rather the biggest differentiator over here, is we wouldn't walk into a business and sort of tell the business, all right, listen, I think you need to automate your accounts payable process. I mean, no, that's not really the approach. What we rather do over here is is work with the business, work with process owners, try and understand some of the pain points, right? And everything really starts with an operational analysis. Now, this can be a full-blown version wherein we look at every single department of yours. We sort of try and understand what the current as-is process is. What is the standard user time? What are some of the volumes? And this could be HR, IT, F&A, whatever. And once we've gotten a good understanding, or once the operational analysis has actually been completed, that's pretty much when we sort of do a gap analysis, and we try and analyze all the different gaps in the business and bridge those through a combination of automation, outsourcing, hybrid, and so on. And again, it's not just about giving a business RPA staffing solutions. I mean, we also have managed solutions right now, wherein the SME marketplace can tap into that, because a mid-sized organization is probably never going to be able to justify the cost of an internal center of excellence, right? I mean, let alone all the other technology costs that go along with it. So this is where managed solutions can play a big role, because what we've technically done over here is we put together the team, we put together the technology, and all we're offering to you is automation as a service, RP as a service, AI as a service. And this is no different to that of a SaaS or a PaaS model, wherein you're just paying a monthly subscription fee. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Gautam.
Excellent. Thank you, Jayton. And I'll just add one more thing to that piece. We also will work to take the fear out of the unknown. And when I say that, what I mean by that is we will do something called a proof of concept. And so we will take that business function, we will get information from the operational analysis, get the directives and the objectives from the customer, and actually build this out for them and show them how we can botify them, and how the robots can actually automate their system in real time with real data before they have to jump in with both feet in a live environment. So we try to make it as user-friendly as an experience as possible, and validate with the customer before we even start to go live. So with that said, I'll transition over to Rajitha to talk about the exciting things we're doing on the educational front to get people ready for their new careers.
Awesome. That was great. And I think to piggyback with what Chetan was covering, so with digital transformation, all these big terms and terminologies, every business is in a very unique position when it comes to transformation and how to bring that change into their organization, and where they want to implement the change while everything is in flight, and they got to have their operations going, they got to have everything going. That's where Valenta comes in. And to Gautam's question as well, we uniquely stand out because we are not here just to offer our services to implement digital transformation or any other. However, we are here as a holistic, where we also offer you the trainings, the learnings from the experts themselves. So something that you don't have to spend 5-10 years for yourself to learn. Rather, you would learn from the experts who have been there, done that, and you are able to learn and implement in a realistic way. So I would like to very quickly announce that we have a very exciting platform, Valenta Growth Labs, which basically is a customized platform for all the busy business and professionals out there. Right. So as a business leader myself, I really don't have time to keep up with all the technologies and all the tools and everything that needs to, be in place for me to engage with my customers the right way, to be able to attract that new talent and run my own company at the same time. So, for someone like an entrepreneur or a busy professional, you won't have time in the day to, especially now with the new normalcy where you are expected to be online 24/7. Our platform really offers that customized, tailored to your needs kind of a learning, where we bring a lot of masterminds together. We very customized flag programs to your business need. We take your use case, we solve it through that learning process, so you get a lot of value out of it. And not to mention the online learning, where you can learn at your pace, at your convenience, and at your location that you prefer. So very excited to announce that. And also with Valenta Growth Labs, we take a good perspective to understand the business pain points and how we can teach you to solve that. For example, if you are embarking on a journey of transformation, let it be digital automation, robotic process, or in general digital transformation, right? So when you are doing that, you are going to be overwhelmed with the information download that you're going to get out there. So we kind of demystify all that for you. We show you how to get started on that journey and what hurdles you will face in the process and how you can overcome that. And we will give you tools and frameworks and a very rich community where you can tag along and build your own process throughout. So really very excited to announce this platform. We are really here to help you guys with whatever learning needs that you have. And we do have quite a few categories where we provide that customized learning. And in this webinar, I want to announce that if you want to go ahead, if you want to subscribe, please go ahead and do that. And for the first 100 subscribers, we are going to offer a free membership, which is a very once in a lifetime kind of an opportunity, because we are doing this launch. And part of the launch, we want to I'm going to pull up the website real quick while I'm speaking. So if you go ahead and go to valentagrowthlabs.podia.com and subscribe here, you will be entered onto our VIP list, which means you will be the one of the first very few to know about what's coming up, what learnings, and not to mention we host some exciting exclusive events to our VIP customers. So you will be invited to events as well, which are a great learning experience, and we bring a panel of experts. We give away some checklists, tools for you to take it back and whatnot. So go ahead and subscribe to our VIP list. And when coming April, this next, tomorrow is April 1st, but mid-April, we will be adding you to upgrading you to our members list. If you subscribe, the first 100 will get that. And also, we do have a couple very interesting courses coming up. So please check it out as well. And we are going to offer some launch specials for those courses. We do have, very exciting course, especially business owners. I highly recommend this course for you, Turning Red Lights Green. If you are a business owner or a business leader and you are trying to generate that revenue or you are trying to improve that bottom line, you have to take this course. Very, very exciting course. And it really is power packed, where you are looking at everything that you need on how to grow your business. And the expert here is really amazing. He himself has generated multi-million businesses for himself, and hear it from the horse's mouth, right? So definitely check out. And I will be sharing with the special VIP members the launch special for these courses. We will be offering them at a very, very special price as part of the launch just for the month of April. So make sure you subscribe and you stay tuned for more updates to follow through. That said, Alan, I'll bring it back to you to take us through the full loop here.
Great, thanks, Rajitha. As you're kind of getting back into the slide deck and the presentation, I'll say that I think it's a wonderful opportunity, because I think there's a huge unmet need, and we saw this and we see this with universities employing chatbots, and some of the best examples of those are online universities for adult education. And right now it's I believe about a $400 billion industry that's going to almost $1 trillion by 2030 in terms of education, and that shift is really going towards adult education from the ages of 22 and under, which is traditionally college education dollars being spent. So a wonderful deployment and getting ahead of how to educate people on their next generation of their careers, but also how to help companies transform, right? And how to take their highly valuable employees and help them be excellent at their next occupation within the company that really has incredibly important applications for them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So I'm just going to dive into this a little bit. So BPO, if you just maybe hit the button one more time, I think That's transforming as well. BPO used to be business process offshoring, right? And outsourcing. And it's really changed in our minds to business process optimization. And it's really taking a combination of automation, education, and operational analysis and figuring out, okay, 10 years ago, my org structure made complete sense to us, right? We were growing, we put people in the right places. When we really take a hard look at this, do we have the right people in the right places? And the answer is maybe yes, but the reality is you may not, and that's okay. That's normal, and that's what most businesses are looking at as well. So what we want to help you do is find a way to take your talent in your organization that has been with you for a very long period of time and help position them into the areas that are most important to your needs. Take those functions that maybe can be outsourced or automated, maybe an accounting function or something that's highly repeatable can be automated. Take those functions and let somebody else do those for a cost savings while you scale up your business for important customer facing activities, and put your employees into revenue generating positions versus revenue neutral positions. So we have a way to do that through process consulting. It could be a digital transformation project, it could be an education project, and it could be outsourcing as well. One example, Rajitha, if you continue to move on, is one of the services we offer, just to share as a case study, is really digital marketing, and we really can work across all technical aspects of business relations. We have higher level business resources. We started doing pair planning, which is a function of the financial services company, but we do a lot with the bookkeeping and accounting, a lot of HR, like Jayton was talking about before. We do a lot of cybersecurity and making sure that the vendors you're onboarding are involved in slavery and other challenges that you're bringing out to your business. So these things are really important to us. And we can go to a simple function like virtual assistants as well, and think about how you can deploy AI on top of a virtual assistant and dictate into somebody like Alexa to do things for you while you continue to work all the time. But one of the things I just wanted to share as a case study is marketing. And Rajitha, if you could kindly move to the next slide. We took a holistic approach to marketing because many businesses, especially in the mid-size sector, but even the large sectors, when you have things compartmentalized, have marketing leaders. But a lot of what they're doing is outsourced, whether you realize it or not. So you may have a strategist on board or somebody who is a strong marketer, but they aren't necessarily an SEO specialist. They aren't necessarily a social media specialist. They aren't necessarily a web designer. They're not a copywriter, and they just, so they farm those out, and which is fine if they're the central point of contact. But what happens is you end up having multiple strategies with multiple meetings and multiple partners, and it isn't maybe the best way to have a strategy, and it leaves gaps in what your marketing strategy is as well, because the marketing strategist is really focused on brand and patient and acquisition of customers, but there's a lot more that has to happen behind the scenes in a coordinated way to make sense. So what we have is we've got a complete solution for small and mid-sized businesses that offers all of these technical resources. And we have an example of one of our multiple programs here, whereas if a marketing specialist costs about $4,100 per month to employ, we can do that. We can give you a senior market strategist and all of the surrounding talent acquisition that goes along with that team in a very affordable way. So you might not traditionally think of that as outsourcing. We're actually nearshoring or even onshoring, as we've got North American marketing specialists with Valenta today. It's an ever-growing team, and I think it's an ever-growing need that the companies have. So this is just one example of how we can help you, but please just let us know. It's part of the solution to transformation, because people are going to shift and pivot in what they're doing today and what they're doing tomorrow based on the needs of your business. We're here to provide a comprehensive solution for you to move forward. So I think that's the end of my slides. I'm going to check the Q&A function. I don't see any new questions there. We did want to share a video on automation because we talk a lot about bots and automation, but it's another thing to actually see how that works. So we wanted to share a video, and Chetan, not to put you on the spot, but this may be a good narrate over aspect for you, since you're kind of the expert in automation, to just kind of understand and help us understand what's happening on the screen as it's happening through the video. So
Yep.
if you could help help the audience walk through, excuse me, what's actually happening during this example of automation, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. So just to give everyone an idea over here, you've obviously got the bot logging into this particular software right now, right? And every single function that you're going to see over the next 2 minutes, everything is being performed by robots, right? And now this is a simple bookkeeping process, and this was actually done for one of our clients in the UK. Now this particular client had about 5 bookkeepers, right? And as a business, they've got about 200 clients that they work with, processing about 10,000 transactions each month. But they had about 5 resources, 5 dedicated bookkeepers. Now in operating in central London, you're obviously paying real steep, rents, and the resources on an average were taking anywhere between 4.5 to 5 minutes to process each transaction. Right now, what the bots are technically doing in this particular video over here is processing the same transaction in about 20 to 25 seconds, right? It's obviously looking a lot faster right now because it's a video and we've obviously edited it that way. But, what we've basically been able to do for this business is reduce their headcount, by 4 resources. So all they need right now is, or rather all they have at this point in time is 1 full-time bookkeeper at their centers in London, and everything else is currently being performed by the bot, because the bot is deployed 24/7 to this particular business. Right now, this is an accounting practice, but again, the same concept applies, right? You could be an end business, you could be a healthcare practice, you could be a manufacturing business, you could be a retail outlet, a pharmacy, an energy business. It doesn't matter, right? You're still going to have a bookkeeping function in-house. And this is where, rather than having human bookkeepers, you could literally have bots perform the very same function for you. Now, what this company basically did, and we're very, very proud about the fact that, no one's really lost their jobs because of automation over here. So what this business did was they've taken those 4 bookkeepers and they're now sort of scaling them up to be accountants, right? Where they could actually handle year ends, they could look at taxation, finalization accounts, and so on. And that is the kind of value that we're literally looking at adding over here. So, Rajita, I guess, that's obviously the video itself, but yeah, now with any form of automation as well, it's important to understand that you're never going to be able to automate anything 100%, right? So what we basically offer, or rather what we commit, is 70 to 75% automation in year 1, and if and by year 2, through machine learning and natural language processing, you'll probably get to a stage of 80 to 85%, and by year 3 get to about 90-92%, right? But there's always going to be that human in the loop component to technically handle the human exceptions. So even in this case right now, and I think we had a question from one of the attendees earlier on, Gautam, who basically wanted to understand what is the key differentiator, and this is the key differentiator, right? Because not only have we offered this client the automation solution, but we've also got a resource that they now have with us at our centers in India that technically handle all the exceptions. So they're getting a complete managed solution, and we were able to save this business, or rather, what they're going to be saving is upwards of about 150,000 pounds, just by reducing their headcount on their bookkeeping process. So that's really a bit of an idea in terms of how automation can actually be deployed and how it can add value.
Awesome. Thank you, Jayton. Hey, a question from Fiza that came in is directed more towards Rajitha. So the question is, being a business owner myself, I am keen on learning on how the growth labs would apply to specific countries and cultures, given many businesses are run differently from region to region. So Rajitha, how would you respond to that question from Fiza?
Sure. I think that's a great question. And now that more than ever we are globally spread, And any training or any learning we do now, we got to consider that diversity and that global perspective. So when it comes to growth labs, that's where we come in as a boutique learning platform, where we look at your specific use case. So in your case, if you're working more with APAC or EMEA kind of regions, and you want to understand how your technology or your business growth is going to impact those markets, that's where we tailor make that course component for you. So you get to incorporate that global view and different cultures and different perspectives as well. So yeah, great question. We always bring that lens to our courses, where we tailor it to our customers and the needs of the customers.
Excellent. Thanks, Rajitha. We also had a question in chat that has not been answered, and that comes from Chris, and he is asking, how does Valenta manage customer concerns over the stigma around offshoring and automating jobs from the US? Automation and robotics is where the world is going, but there's still concerns over sending jobs overseas if the positions aren't completely automated. Who wants to kick that one off? I've got some thoughts to share on that one as well.
I can, on a first hand, having experienced that and having seen it in Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies, the way a lot of the senior leaders look at it is, it's not necessarily, you are taking away the jobs from here and sending it offshore. It's really where you want to focus your business resources, focus and attention, so you can grow your business here. So it's really, when you create a bot, you are now letting your employee who is manually wasting time on that tedious task, now they can really focus on their value add activities for your company. So it's really a win-win for the company. One of the organizations I worked for, we implemented automation, which basically helped resolve a lot of efficiency gain from a productivity standpoint. And at the same time, that specific resources were able to focus more on the customer experience, and they could build that path with their customers. So it's a win-win. It's all about how you want to structure your org. But Alan, Chetan, please chime in.
I get that question commonly from candidates as we're building out our team in the U.S. as well, and I look at it as this is a redeployment and this is a growth strategy of businesses. It's not necessarily a loss of business function. So it is an evolution. And there's a movie that was about the growth of NASA, and in that movie there was a whole group of people they called computers, and they're people that just sat in a room and computed. Before there were computers, but when they got the IBM in NASA, that took away those jobs. But what really happened was those computers became the computer technicians. So their job function changed, but they didn't lose their jobs. They transitioned into the next phase of their careers. But they needed training, Rajitha, and they needed to be trained on how to use the computer. And that's really what we're talking about, is bringing that full circle. Businesses need to be efficient. Jobs change. It's just the way that business happens. And a leader needs to be consistently looking to make sure their organization is strong and they're focusing the resources in the right places to suit their business needs in the current marketplace and also the future. So it's a shifting dynamic. It doesn't mean that U.S. workers are losing their jobs. It just means that we're going to be redeployed. And if a valued employee is a valued employee, a customer and an employer will make sure that they retain that person because they have value to the company. So it's just a change in strategy versus a shift in talent into a different place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. And I think that answers the questions in the chat that we had for today. So we'll make this a wrap and just say thank you, everybody, for joining our webinar today. Great interaction. We really appreciate that. That makes these meetings so much more valuable. Chetan and Rajitha, thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise as well to educate the community today.
Thanks so much, Alan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.